Hey everybody, so here it is, the last review of the prequels before we get to the amazingness that is the original trilogy. So Revenge of the Sith is generally considered to be the watchable prequel because people actually do like this movie, and I like this movie too. I don't think it's amazing or anything, it certainly doesn't come close to that, and honestly, it is a bad movie in terms of execution. But I guess it's watchable enough compared to the other two prequels where I kind of give it a break because we just didn't get 3 awful Star Wars movies in a row. There are still some serious problems with this movie, like acting and dialogue. There was literally a line in this movie where the Chancellor is like, "Leave him or we'll never make it," and Anakin goes, "His fate will be the same as ours." And Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's still some serious problems with this movie. Hayden Christensen is still god awful in this movie. Maybe he's not as bad as Attack of the Clones, but really, that's not saying anything. He's so bad in that movie that just because he's not as bad here does not make this performance good. And his transformation, this is a script problem, not his fault, is so rushed. Really, it doesn't develop at all. And it's a serious problem with the movie because this is supposed to be Anakin's turn, how he becomes Darth Vader. Spoiler alert, if you haven't known that Anakin is Darth Vader where you lived your entire life. But I don't think they sell it. They really don't sell it. And while it's not as bad as it could have been, I'm sure, I think that it is a problem with the movie. But I think that since it's not terrible, once again, it's actually watchable. It just isn't great. Now let's talk about some positives real quick. There is actually a decent lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi and General Grievous in the middle of this movie. The problem is that it ends almost as quickly as it starts, but that whole section is actually pretty decent, I think. Mainly because it's not super dialogue heavy. But, you know, it's a well done scene for the most part. Even though it is a little ridiculous, but there are some pretty cool moments, and I think overall it's a very solid action scene, just like the Darth Maul lightsaber scenes. No matter how much I dislike the prequels, I don't think the lightsaber fights are that bad. They're just not great like the original trilogy. But like the Count Dooku one in the Attack of the Clones is terrible. That one is terrible. But for the most part, the other lightsaber battles actually aren't that bad, honestly. Also, though, just like the other movies, like I mentioned, I went on a rant about this in my Attack of the Clones review. But the Jedi are so stupid, especially in this one. Mace Windu proves he's the dumbest idiot of all time. He goes to kill Palpatine, and then he doesn't do it when he has him beat. It's so dumb. And this is just a little thing I noticed, but this movie has still not dated super well. It does look better than the other prequels, because it just simply was further in time, so it doesn't look as bad. There's a scene where, in that scene, right after Mace Windu dies, spoiler again, but come on, I've been spoiling all the movies, so it doesn't really matter, where he turns around, and, you know, he hasn't put up his hood yet, so his wrinkly face is showing, and you can easily see where the prosthetics end on his face. Like, did anybody notice this when they cut the film? I just don't understand how Lucas, who did such a great job with the original trilogy, with all the prosthetics and the characters and all that, can make such a horrible mistake. And really, everything just looks so bad sometimes, prosthetically, in this movie. A central problem, though, with this movie is actually the ending. I think that the final lightsaber fights, both of them, are very weak. Especially the one between the Emperor and Yoda. That one is pathetically bad. I am shocked how bad this scene turned out. But the one between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. Now this is the big scene, because this is supposed to be the one where we feel the friendship being broken because of the dark side within Anakin. And the problem is the movie hasn't sold the friendship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. None of them have. For the first movie, Anakin was just a kid, so he wasn't really friends with Obi-Wan. He was more, you know, like a respect kind of thing. In the second one, the whole time all Anakin did was bitch about how much Obi-Wan sucked as a master and blah 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 blah. And then in this one, they're in the movie together for maybe a total of like 15 minutes, and their chemistry is non-existent. So you don't feel this wonderful friendship getting broken. Despite the fact they keep telling you that it is, and they loved each other like brothers. But you don't feel that. When you don't feel that, this just turns into a bunch of without any actual emotion behind it. So then it just becomes a spectacle. And I'm not a 4-year-old kid. I don't get impressed by spectacle alone. I have to actually have some substance to my action scenes, and there's none here. There is no substance. So while it looks fine, it was a okay choreographed fight scene, there's nothing really impactful about this. And the same goes for that scene between the Emperor and Yoda. There's a great little moment when Yoda walks in and the two little guards go, and he goes, and they like go against the wall. But you know, that's not impactful, and it's a little fun moment. And outside that, this action scene just sucks. There's definitely no emotion here because there's no setup. There's no setup for this action. Yoda's just like, I'm gonna go fight the Emperor, and then he does, and then it's really underwhelming because it's two old people fighting, and all they really do is just throw giant Senate chairs at each other, and then Yoda loses, and then that's over. So that's the problem. There's all this slightly decent build-up in this slightly decent movie for a pretty lame and pathetic ending. And Padme dying because she doesn't have the will to live. Just so bad. The storytelling here has some serious flaws. Maybe even more than the actual prequels. Because this film is so much better paced than the other two prequels. It actually moves well. But I think because of that, they rush a lot of scenes. And a lot of these scenes don't feel developed. This is also one of my main complaints, and this is a criticism that no other movie can possibly have, but I said this in one of my reviews, that I'm going to judge these as Star Wars movies because that's what this is, a Star Wars movie. And this movie does not feel like Star Wars at all. It's just so action heavy, and that's never what Star Wars was. Star Wars was never a series that relied on action scenes for impact. It relied on likable characters and interaction with this high-stake adventure. And that's what was so great about the original series, was it just resonated with people because these characters were so likable, and he put them in likable situations. And there are other things, obviously, that made the originals great because of all the extra stuff they piled on to that core. And when you just have a movie that's simply based around a bunch of special effects, Gaza, and action scenes, while it's watchable, it's not Star Wars. And I think that's a big problem with this movie, is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. As much as I don't like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I don't think they feel like Star Wars either. They try to feel like Star Wars. They went with the Star Wars formula. And yeah, I don't think a movie should always stick to a specific formula, because that's created a lot of bad movies in the past. I think that when you make a movie in a franchise, you have to keep certain elements of that franchise so it doesn't feel like a completely different movie from the rest of the franchise. And here, that's a serious problem. So overall, I'm just going to give this a C-. I think this is a solid, watchable movie. There's certainly nothing life-changing, and I don't think this is better than any of the original trilogy. Some people think this is actually better than 6, and I just don't understand that at all, personally. Of course, like always, I want to know what you all think. Comment below. What do you think of Revenge of the Sith? Also, subscribe here. See y'all later.